Chapter 1. Lemuel Gulliver was born into a modest family in Nottinghamshire, England. His father owned a small estate, and although the family was not wealthy, they valued education. At the age of 14, Gulliver was sent to study at Cambridge University. He worked hard and enjoyed learning, but after 3 years, his family's finances could no longer support his studies. To prepare for a career, Gulliver became an apprentice to a respected London surgeon named James Bates. During this time, he studied medicine, navigation, and mathematics. He was especially interested in travel and dreamed of exploring distant lands. After completing his apprenticeship, he continued his medical studies in Holland before returning to England. Gulliver soon found work as a ship surgeon. For several years he travelled to different parts of the world, gaining experience and seeing many foreign countries. When he returned home, he decided to settle down in London. He married Mary Burton and hoped to build a successful medical practice. Unfortunately, his plans did not work out. After the death of his mentor, Mr. Bates, Gulliver struggled to attract patients. Because he refused to use dishonest methods to make money, his business suffered. Eventually, he decided to return to life at sea. For 6 years, he sailed on various voyages to the East and West Indies. During his free time, he read books, studied languages, and observed the customs of the people he met. His travels increased both his knowledge and his fortune. However, after one unsuccessful voyage, he grew tired of the sea and attempted once again to settle down with his family. After several years without success, Gulliver accepted a position aboard a ship called the Antelope. The vessel left Bristol on May 4th, 1699, bound for the South Seas. At first, the journey went smoothly. Then, disaster struck. A violent storm drove the ship far off course. The crew struggled against powerful winds and rough seas, but eventually the ship crashed into a rock and was destroyed. Many sailors died during the storm. Gulliver and a few others managed to escape in a small boat, but their luck did not last long. Exhausted and battered by the waves, the boat overturned. Gulliver found himself alone in the ocean. Swimming with all the strength he had left, he fought against the sea until he finally reached land. Completely exhausted, he walked inland searching for signs of people or shelter. Finding nothing, he collapsed on a patch of soft grass and fell into a deep sleep. When he awoke the next morning, something was terribly wrong. He tried to move but discovered that he could not. His arms, legs, and even his hair had been tied down. Hundreds of tiny ropes held him firmly against the ground. As he struggled to understand what had happened, he noticed a tiny human figure climbing across his body. To his astonishment, the little creature was only about 6 inches tall. Soon dozens more appeared. They carried tiny bows, arrows, and spears. The miniature people stared at Gulliver with a mixture of fear and wonder. Startled by the sight, Gulliver shouted loudly, causing them to scatter in terror. When he attempted to break free, the tiny people responded by firing hundreds of arrows at him. Although their arrows were small, they stung like needles. Realizing that resistance would only bring more pain, Gulliver decided to remain still. After some time, one of the tiny people's leaders approached and gave a long speech from a small platform that had been built near Gulliver's head. Gulliver could not understand a single word, but he tried to show that he meant no harm. Soon he became painfully aware of another problem. He was starving. Using gestures, he signaled that he needed food and drink. The little people understood. They quickly climbed onto his body, carrying baskets filled with meat and bread. Gulliver ate enormous amounts by their standards, swallowing several portions at once. The tiny people watched in amazement as he consumed everything they brought. They also provided him with barrels of wine, which he drank in a single gulp. Each time he finished, the crowd cheered with excitement and amazement. Although Gulliver was much larger and stronger than all of them combined, he began to admire their courage. These tiny people willingly walked across his body and worked together in great numbers without showing fear. Eventually, an important official arrived from the emperor. Through signs and gestures he explained that Gulliver would be taken to the capital city and kept under the emperor's authority. Gulliver requested his freedom, but the official refused. By this time, the tiny people had already begun preparing an extraordinary solution. While Gulliver slept, they secretly gave him a sleeping potion mixed into his drink. Once he was unconscious, hundreds of engineers, carpenters, and laborers worked together to build a giant wheeled platform capable of carrying him. Using ropes, pulleys, and remarkable engineering skill, they lifted Gulliver onto the machine and secured him in place. Then 1,500 tiny horses pulled the enormous load toward the capital city. When Gulliver awoke during the journey, he was amazed to discover what had happened. He realized that these little people possessed impressive intelligence and organization despite their small size. After a long journey, he finally arrived at the capital of the kingdom. Thousands of curious citizens came out to see him. The emperor and his court also appeared, eager to observe the giant stranger. Gulliver was lodged in an abandoned temple, where strong chains were fastened to one of his legs. The chains were long enough for him to move around, but prevented him from escaping. As he stood and looked around, the crowd reacted with awe and excitement. Never before had they seen a creature of such enormous size. Though Gulliver was now a prisoner in a strange land, he sensed that his adventure was only beginning. He had survived a shipwreck, discovered an unknown kingdom, and become the center of attention for an entire nation of tiny people. The remarkable land of Lilliput awaited him.